Hey guys, so third time trying to film this. That's just life with a newborn, I guess. But I just put Jameson down for a nap again, and hopefully I can get through this video without him waking up. So I'm gonna try and go through this as quickly as possible and also be more animated, because the first time I filmed this, I literally looked dead in the eyes. So this is my labor and delivery story. My name is Annalisa. I just gave birth to my son Jameson on July 6th. Well, almost 3 weeks ago, not just. But yeah, I had an emergency C-section and he ended up being in the NICU for 9 days. But yeah, let's get into the story. Before Jameson was born, my OB gave me a membrane sweep to kind of get the ball rolling. And I was convinced that I was gonna have the baby like the next day. That is not what happened. I literally just had I just began labor basically. Like the early stages where you kind of have contractions. They're like, they don't hurt or whatever. So I think that I experienced that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I really started going on like walks. Like I think I was doing like 2-3 mile walks a day because I was like, I'm getting this baby out. So Saturday comes along, it's the 4th of July, and I'm like, I'm gonna have this baby on the 4th of July. My contractions were pretty consistent, and what else? Okay, so my contractions were like really consistent, and I thought they were like more painful, but they definitely weren't as painful as they were going to get eventually. So I think that morning, like super early in the morning, like midnight kind of, we go to the hospital and I'm only 2 centimeters dilated. So then they had me walk for 2 hours. I walked for 2 hours, then I had a bowel movement and my contractions just went away. Like no more contractions, I was feeling great. So that was cool. I feel like it's kind of embarrassing, and then they sent us home. So 4th of July I just kind of spent like uncomfortable, not really in like a lot of pain, but just like uncomfortable. It was really hot. I kind of spent it by the pool, and that was that. So that was Saturday. Sunday rolls around, and once again I'm having contractions. So we go in Sunday around like 7 a.m. We go in, I'm 4 centimeters dilated. I'm so excited because last time I went, they were like, okay, get to 4 centimeters and then we will admit you. They did not admit me because my contractions were still too like far apart or inconsistent. And even though I was dilated, they still weren't gonna let me. And they're like, oh no, like you should just go home and labor, or we can have you walk again. And I was like, I'm not freaking walking again. No way. So yeah, we went home on Sunday. So basically all of Sunday I labored at home. It was like freaking 96 degrees and so hot. I was literally in this room just like pacing. I tried to take some showers, take some baths, go on the ball, like the bouncy ball. I did everything and I was in so much pain. Like I thought I was gonna die. I was like, I don't know how to do this. But since I was having my contractions, they weren't super close together ever. Like they were not consistent and they were not close together. And I was like, ugh, this sucks. So I was waiting for that whole day. So then Chris is like, okay, try to sleep. By now it's like 10 p.m. So I'm trying to sleep, and I literally could not sleep. I like am pacing, I'm trying to let Chris sleep, so I go in the bonus room, I'm just walking around. This is just not meant to happen. Jameson is crying. He's sleeping, but he's fussing in his sleep. I just want him to nap. I just want him to nap. So it's like 10 p.m. and I literally can't sleep, so I go into the bonus room. I try to like walk around, try not to bother Chris because like obviously I want him to sleep too. I think around like 11:30 I was like, I cannot do this anymore, I need to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital. Finally, I'm like 6 centimeters dilated. They admit me, and I think it's because I was feeling this like intense pressure and I wasn't sure if I had to poop or if I had to give birth. So I kind of explained that to the nurses in triage and they were like, okay, well, we'll just admit you. And it was just exciting because I was 6 centimeters and they let me in. They wheeled me up to labor and delivery and they gave me my epidural. I was literally so freaking stoked. You have no idea. Like, it was probably the most exciting moment of my entire life. So then after that, I kind of like slept on and off until the next nurse came in. So I think they switched nurses at around 7:30, and that's when they like broke my water, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna have you start pushing, you're gonna have a baby in a few hours. And I was like, I'm gonna have a baby in a few hours, this is so exciting. Chris and I were like texting my family and friends and we were so excited. I'm pushing, and then my nurse has to go on a break, so I keep pushing, and Chris is like helping me, we're counting, we kind of get in the rhythm of things, and I'm exhausted. First of all, pushing is a freaking workout. And then I think it's like 10 or 11, and my nurse and the doctor come in and they're like, okay, you have a fever, his heart rate is in the 200s, we need to get your baby out like soon. So they're like, you can try pushing for a little bit longer, but then we're gonna try to vacuum him out, and if that doesn't work, then we're gonna have to do an emergency C-section. So I'm like, okay, like whatever, it's fine. By now I've been pushing for like 3-4 hours and I just want to meet my baby. So all of a sudden, all these people come into the room because they were kind of like preparing for the emergency C-section situation. So they try to vacuum him out, and it almost kind of like hit me immediately that this was not gonna work. Like, I looked at the nurses' faces and like I felt like there was blood everywhere. Sorry to be graphic. There was blood. I was trying to push, and it just wasn't going to happen that way. And then they're like, okay, you need to stop pushing, we're gonna prep you for an emergency C-section. They give my husband, Chris, they give him scrubs, they tell him to go wait in the hallway. They then transfer me onto a gurney situation, and then they rush me to the OR. So then once I'm in the OR, they're kind of like giving me the, I guess they're like prefacing what's gonna happen, because by now Jameson was like in distress. So they were like, okay, we're in this room. Do you see that window over there? That window goes to the baby room. Once Jameson gets out of your body, once they get him out, we're literally just going to put him through that window, and that's where they're gonna take care of him, and then they're gonna take him to the NICU. So by now I'm kind of like, okay, like just do what you gotta do. And then they do the little tests to see if I'm like feeling things like down here, to see if I'm gonna be numb or what. I can still feel everything on my right leg. And before, they were kind of like, okay, your epidural like isn't working quite right, because I was experiencing a lot of pain towards the end. And then they realized, I think either like the epidural fell out or something like that, but it just wasn't working and it wasn't good enough for them to do the surgery on me. So then they have to give me a spinal tap. So they had to do that. And then I was shaking. Like, I'd been shaking and shivering since the night before, even without the epidural, without any medication. So then with the epidural and with more medication, it just kind of made the shaking worse. So the anesthesiologist was like, I can give you something for that. Do you want that? And I was like, yeah, sure, give me that. And then I was like, am I gonna feel all of this? Like, I'm kind of nervous. And he was like, oh, are you nervous? I can give you medication for that. And I was like, okay, give me the meds. Give me the meds. Like, I need to calm down. So then they gave me all the meds. I'm sat on the table. Literally, my arms are like this. I'm laying on the table like this. So then I'm like, okay, wait, where's my husband? Like, where's Chris? Finally, they let him in. I'm like so out of it. By now, I might as well be asleep because that's like how coherent I was. And Chris said I was like pretty coherent, and I'm like, didn't feel like it. So that's when they start doing the C-section. I don't remember a lot of this. I do remember them having to go in through the bottom, which I'm assuming is my area where the baby should have come out of. They have to go back in and pop him out of my pelvis because he got stuck. So not only did we have an infection and he lacked oxygen, he was also stuck, and he was facing this way. So normally babies are supposed to face in towards you when they come out of the womb, but since he was facing out this way, that also probably could have been why it was not working with me pushing. But yeah, so it was just kind of like the perfect storm of things that made this delivery situation not very easy. So finally, or not finally, I'm sure it didn't take very long. Like I think it literally took like 30 minutes max from when they said they were gonna do the C-section to get Jameson out. And that's including like prepping me and everything like that. So they get Jameson out. We like don't hear a cry. So basically he was not breathing. So they put him in the room. The nurse is like so nice. She's like, okay, do you have like a camera or anything? I can go take pictures of him for you. So we give them the camera, they come back with the camera and we look at the pictures, and then they're like, okay, we need to move you, meaning me, they need to move me into recovery. So they move me into recovery, and then that's when Chris and I kind of get separated again. And then Chris comes into recovery and he's like, how are you doing? Like, what's up? And he gives me my phone and everything, and I'm just like still so out of it. Like I'm literally in and out of consciousness. And he's like, okay, Jameson's in the NICU. We're waiting for your COVID test to come back to see if you can go visit him and all that stuff. So it takes, like I literally got my COVID test like the night before. I'm like, why is it taking so long? It's literally been over 12 hours. Finally the results come back. I'm negative, as I thought I would be, because I've literally been at home for 4 months now. But basically then Chris is allowed to go to the NICU. So he goes to the NICU, he brings the camera, leaves me my phone, and then he also ended up going home to shower and like eat lunch because I was basically a blob of nothing. So meanwhile, while he's doing all of that, I am just in recovery. They do like my checks, they give me more meds, they have me on antibiotics, all that good stuff. I'm basically useless. Like I'm pretty much a useless human being. I still have my catheter, I have my IV, I can't move, I can't feel my legs. They have these things doing compressions on my legs. And then eventually they move me up to postpartum. But while they were moving me up to postpartum, literally in my like hospital bed, they take me down to the NICU, and then they kind of give me the lowdown on what was happening with Jameson. And it was really scary because I really wasn't in like the mindset to get like medical news on my child. And this doctor was talking to me in terms that I did not understand. And I was just like, so is he gonna be okay? And the doctor was like, well, I can't tell you if he's gonna be okay or not. And I was like, but like he's gonna be like fine? Like he was like, well, it's just too soon to tell. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm like crying. And then they just kind of like get me up to my postpartum room. I text Chris, tell him where I am. And at this point I'm like exhausted, I'm crying. Oh God, it was just a lot. But yeah, so that's my labor and delivery. That's pretty much what happened. I can go into more about Jameson's NICU situation and my postpartum journey more probably in like another video. But overall, I am not scarred from my labor and delivery. I definitely want to have another kid, and I do want to try to have another vaginal birth. Call me crazy. Personally, just the C-section recovery, the first few days were actually terrible, and I don't know if it's because of all the things combined, but I personally would not want to go through a C-section recovery again just after my experience. But yeah, it's a freaking trip, guys. I still can't even believe all this happened. I can't even believe I have a baby sleeping in the other room still. He's beautiful and healthy, and our doctor says he's been doing great. He's gained a pound. The NICU nurses were amazing. My postpartum nurses were amazing. My labor and delivery nurses were amazing. Everything, even though everything went not wrong, because we still have a beautiful baby, like, even though everything went kind of like awry and just like crazy and just not how we thought it would be at all, I still feel like we had a wonderful experience, and I 100% will have another child. So yeah, that's my labor and delivery story. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to do like a Q&A or have other video ideas for me, please like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be.